Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the victim of a violent and predatory rapist speaks of her relief as he's jailed for at least 10 years for attacking her.
I didn't expect such a long sentence, but now I know that he can't do this to anybody else.
Also on the programme, the EU Agriculture Commissioner warns Scottish farmers to expect trade barriers after Brexit. New hope for people waiting for transplants as kidney donations reach record levels. 6 of the best, swimmer Duncan Scott breaks a Commonwealth Games medal record.
You okay there? Yes. You enjoying being back?
Yeah.
And just enough time to choose an outfit, we meet the charity worker who's got an invite to Harry and Meghan's wedding. Good evening. A man who raped a woman in Aberdeen city centre has been told he'll spend at least a decade behind bars. A judge described Alistair MacDonald as violent and predatory. His victim, who has waived her anonymity, welcomed the sentence, saying she's relieved he can't attack anyone else. Rebecca Curran reports.
It's more than 2 years since she was brutally raped after a night out with friends, but Katie Johnston is still haunted by the attack every day.
As soon as I struggled to breathe, I thought maybe this is actually like he's going to kill me. But I fought really hard just to keep breathing. There was points where I thought maybe I should just give up and pass out. But yeah, it was very hard.
Can you tell us exactly what impact this has had on your life?
I am generally scared day to day. Like, I'm very jumpy just because of the nature of the attack.
And it was the nature of the attack in Union Terrace Gardens which saw Alistair MacDonald today sentenced to at least 10 years behind bars. The judge said your victim didn't see your face, your clothing, or anything of you. To her, you were a faceless, violent, and predatory rapist.
I feel like all victims can agree with me on this, that no sentence would be long enough. But as much time as possible for them not to do this to someone else would be great, yeah.
On sentencing, Judge Lord Arthurson said the attack that took place here was ferocious. He told Alistair MacDonald his crime was abhorrent and had had a profound and traumatic impact on his victim. He said he had no choice but to impose a very significant custodial sentence.
Katie says she now has closure. She wants to encourage other victims of sexual violence to come forward.
Like, I understand, like most victims, they feel ashamed because they feel in some way it's their fault, but like I just want to hug them all and be like, you didn't do anything wrong.
Rebecca Curran, Reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
The EU Agriculture Commissioner is warning Scottish farmers to expect trade barriers after Brexit. Phil Hogan of Ireland has told Reporting Scotland it will not be possible to keep existing free trade arrangements and leave both the single market and customs union. But the UK government insists a free trade deal is possible. Here's our political correspondent, Glenn Campbell.
What do farmers want from those negotiating Brexit?
I just wish they would get on and make a decision so that we know what's happening. It's 18 months since we had a referendum and we're no wiser than we were 18 months ago.
Kelvin Pate hopes there'll still be demand for Scotch lamb in the EU and that a no-deal Brexit, resulting in new tariffs on agricultural trade, can be avoided.
It would be farmers like us on the ground who pay the cost, and the general public would lose out because the food would become more expensive.
When we leave the European Union at the end of March next year, there should be no immediate change to the trading relationship. And after the first couple of years, the UK government hopes we'll still be able to buy from and sell into the EU market with a minimum of fuss. But will that be possible? The EU's Agriculture Commissioner at an international rural development conference in Edinburgh is not so sure.
Well, it's the United Kingdom have put a lot of barriers to finding solutions. So it narrows the options in relation to what is possible to reach agreement.
So if we're out of the customs union and out of the single market, will it still be possible for us to buy from and sell into the EU in much the same way as we do now?
I know it's not going to be possible. If you're going out of the single market and out of the customs union, of course things are going to be very different. And there are going to be barriers, there are going to be inconvenience for people that are supplying goods and services in both directions.
UK ministers seem more optimistic about a free trade deal, arguing that it will suit both sides.
We are the single most important consumer for EU goods, and they're our most important consumers. So anything that does us harm harms them. And so frictionless borders are what we're looking for, an arrangement which makes sense to the traders on both sides of that line.
The Scottish Government wants the UK to stay in both the European single market and the customs union.
The best way to maintain standards, have access to labour and to ensure delivery of our goods and services to our markets in Europe, we need single market membership to continue.
Back in East Lothian, whatever comes with leaving the EU, the farmer here wants an end to Brexit uncertainty. Glenn Campbell reporting Scotland, near Haddington.
The father of a disabled woman allegedly murdered by her sister and daughter in her Ayrshire home has told a court he saw her with a black eye several months before her death. Derek Greenup was giving evidence in the trial of the women who deny killing 46-year-old Sharon Greenup at the home they shared with her in Troon. Andrew Black reports.
Sharon Greenup was found dead in her home in November 2016. She was 46. She lived in Alderside Avenue in Troon with her sister Lynette and daughter Shayla. The High Court in Glasgow heard Sharon struggled to get about after injuring her spine in an accident and suffered from depression. Giving evidence, Sharon's father, Derek Greenup, seen here with the walking stick, said he went to visit his daughter one day in August 2016. Derek Greenup, a retired baker, told the court he went upstairs to see Sharon in her bedroom. He said the room was stinking and that Sharon was lying in bed with a black eye. Mr. Greenup said he asked her how she got the black eye. He told the court she said Lynette did it. Mr. Greenup went on to say that Sharon later apologised to Lynette, adding that she told a lie about how she got her injury. Under cross-examination, it was put to Mr. Greenup that there had never been an allegation that Lynette hit Sharon. He responded, "That's not true." Also giving evidence, Sharon's sister Diane Hogg broke down in tears when asked about the night police came to tell her her sister was dead. Mrs. Hogg, who works as a carer, said she stopped visiting Sharon's house in 2013. She spoke of her concerns that the home was dirty and there was a lack of food. 40-year-old Lynette Greenup and Shayla Greenup, who's 20, are accused of assaulting and murdering Sharon between September and November 2016 and fraudulently claiming her state benefits after she died. It's said the pair burned scented candles at the house to hide the smell of Sharon's decomposing body. They deny all the charges against them and the trial continues. Andrew Black reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
Kidney donations have reached record levels in Scotland. There were more than 300 transplants last year, but more than 500 Scots are still waiting for a life-saving transplant. Lucy White reports.
Nick Allen was on honeymoon last year when he received the call which would save his life. He'd been living with a kidney condition since he was a baby and had spent more than 2 years on dialysis. Finally, there was an organ for him and he rushed to hospital to have the operation.
It was instant. As soon as I woke up and realised where I was, 100 times better than I felt when I was on dialysis. I had a kidney function of maybe 8%. You can make a transplant and it's straight away it's at 25, 26%. Whereas now, with one kidney, I've got the same as like a normal person's. I think about the family a lot, and obviously they've went through a hard time, but I hope that they realise that, you know, they've kind of given me a life.
Nick was one of the record 208 people last year who received a kidney from someone who died. That's a 27% increase on the year before. There were 469 organ donations in general.
It was only a few months before he was killed.
Michael Pringle's son Clinton was just 3 years old when he was knocked down and killed by a van driver. He and his wife Stacey made the decision to donate Clinton's organs.
Even in our deepest despair, we thought there's somebody else getting a phone call this morning that's it's the phone call they've been waiting on, and it's a gift of life for their child or for an adult. Several people benefited from Clinton's organs, but a wee girl got his heart, so that was a big thing for us.
This year, the Scottish Government is planning to back a law which will create a soft opt-out system for organ donation, meaning more people will be registered without having to do anything.
We know that families are twice as likely to authorise organ donation in the event of their loved one's death if they knew that that person wished to give their organs.
At the moment, there are around 570 people in Scotland who are still waiting for the call that Nick received, the one that could save their life. Lucy White, reporting Scotland.
An energy firm has won a court appeal and over £100 million in compensation following a tunnel collapse at a new Highland hydroelectric scheme. SSE Generation took legal action against contractor Hochtief, which designed and built the underground passage at the Glendoe site near Fort Augustus. The Court of Session in Edinburgh ruled against the energy firm, but after challenging the decision, judges have ruled in favour of SSE. Forensic experts have been allowed into Cameron House Hotel on Loch Lomond side, where 2 men died in a fire a week before Christmas. Police Scotland say after extensive structural work, a full examination of the scene is now underway. An investigation to establish the details surrounding the fire in the main building of the 5-star hotel is continuing. Simon Midgley and Richard Dyson from London died in the blaze. An indefinite strike by bus drivers in Aberdeen has been suspended. Unite union members were due to walk out tomorrow in a dispute over new terms and conditions. Employer First Aberdeen made an improved offer this afternoon, which will now be voted on by drivers. The union's branch committee has recommended they accept it. The company says the offer is the maximum it can afford. An 8-year-old boy from Western Bartonshire who suffers from a rare illness has teamed up with his superhero Iron Man to raise awareness of his condition. Aaron Hunter has ROHAD, an incurable condition that affects only about 100 children worldwide. During the filming of his new action movie, the Hollywood actor Robert Downey Jr. took up Aaron's challenge to highlight ROHAD. Katrina Renton can tell us more.
ROHAD is evil, and I need your help to defeat it.
8-year-old Aaron has ROHAD and has spent most of his life in and out of hospital. It is a rare condition causing previously healthy children to gain weight and have breathing difficulties. No cure has been found yet.
Some of my friends with ROHAD have died. I don't want any more of my friends to die.
So he turned to a superhero to help in his mission.
Please help me, Iron Man. I love you.
He believed from the very beginning that if he could just speak to Iron Man or Iron Man read his letter or seen his video, he would help him, because that's what the good guys do.
Aaron and his sister had come up with an idea. Robert Downey Jr., who plays Iron Man, invited Aaron and his family to hear about it.
We're talking about doing a challenge where you jump in a muddy puddle for, you've decided, 33 seconds. Yeah. And then you challenge 3 other people to do it. Yeah. And the reason behind all that was because you were saying that you wanted to raise
awareness.
Yeah.
To help all my special friends.
And Iron Man, or Robert, stepped up to the challenge wearing a See You Jimmy hat.
How much does Aaron love Iron Man?
He adores him. It's like they have this special connection, especially they've been FaceTiming for ages now, so they've gotten to know each other, but when they actually met, it was like they had a physical connection to each other. Like, he's genuinely a great man.
Aaron recognises it's not, he needs Iron Man to help get the awareness, but we need lots of heroes. It's not just Iron Man, so we need everybody to find that inner hero in them.
All Avengers, Iron Man fans alike, I hereby challenge thee, go mad, jump for ROHAD.
Aaron wasn't well enough to speak to us today, but he hopes people will take up his challenge. Katrina Renton, reporting Scotland, Alexandria. It's
17 minutes to 7. A reminder now of tonight's main story. The victim of a violent and predatory rapist speaks of her relief as he's jailed for at least 10 years for attacking her in Aberdeen city centre. And still to come, we look back on the life of former Partick Thistle manager John Lambie, who's died at the age of 77. Politicians across the UK are being urged to stop prioritising the car and help tackle childhood obesity. The call for action comes from a group of clinicians based in Edinburgh who've written to transport ministers, calling on them to spend more on active travel. Here's Ian McInnes.
I take my bike to school because it's much faster to get to school and it's easier.
But Roisha, in a way, is cycling against the stream. For more than 40 years, numbers of kids walking and cycling to school has decreased hugely. The car is king in many ways, with active travel squeezed out. This latest report says children are losing out on a wide range of benefits as a result.
The authors of the report commend the Scottish Government for their recent doubling of the active travel budget, which has contributed to cycle paths like these in Inverness. But they say that more could and should still be done.
It's about investment in the infrastructure, and it's about infrastructure that works. So if you've got a cycle path that goes half of the way, you know, it actually needs to join up from the home to the school, and it needs to be an inviting environment that isn't dominated by, you know, middle-aged men in lycra zooming past too fast.
Many children do though make that choice, and the benefits to them are clear.
It's much more fun going on the bike. You get to go faster to school. I usually get there in plenty of time. Makes more sense.
But the report points to parents' concerns about safety as one of the issues surrounding the low numbers.
We live in a rural area, so at the minute there's not a safe road path.
The roads are a bit dangerous and there's a lot of blind corners.
We stay quite close to the A9, so there's a dangerous stretch which is unprotected.
I can understand why parents would consider it to be unsafe for some children to go on the roads. It depends on what roads and where they're going. The roads could be safer. There could be more cycle paths around. There could be more directions for cyclists as well. And I think it works both ways. Cyclists also need to obey the rules of the road too.
And the report says those who are driven to school are likely to repeat that behaviour as adults, and it urges parents to give kids back the freedoms they once enjoyed. Ian McInnes, reporting Scotland in Inverness.
On to the Commonwealth Games now, and swimmer Duncan Scott has won an historic 6th medal on the final day of swimming competition. He's now won more medals at any single Games than any other Scottish competitor. Rhona McLeod reports from the Gold Coast.
The Scotland swim fans were in party mood as their team looked set to finish their campaign in style. Another medal for Duncan Scott, a silver in the 200 individual medley.
Close on the touch, Larkin gets the gold, the silver to Duncan Scott. What a brilliant swim that was from him.
There was loads of guys in that race that could have won it, or even touched me out, or been in the top three. So it was a real battle, a real dogfight, and no, it was really good. I enjoyed it, but it was tough.
How much would you love to claim medal number 7?
I'll maybe speak to you afterwards.
And the impressive team of McNally, Murdoch, Sharonek and Scott took on the might of the Australian favourites.
Here they are, 4 kilts, 4 big men, the final of the men's 4x100 medley relay.
But unfortunately, the 7th medal for Scott was not to come, as Scotland finished 4th. Despite the disappointment of the final race, it was time for the Scots to celebrate a job well done, especially the achievement of Duncan Scott.
And obviously creating a little bit of history along the way. He's been absolutely exceptional. He's only 20 years old, so he's obviously still got things to improve on and things to learn, so he knows that. And so I do expect him to continue to improve as we go forward.
But there's no chance of success going to the 20-year-old's head.
He'll be going back to his own flat, at his own flat made. His parents are where they always were. His coach is always where he always was. And frankly, if he gets a bit up himself, he'll be told to.
This has been an incredible week for him. I mean, 4 bronze and then the gold. The Australians certainly didn't see that coming. Mind you, they didn't even come second, but he did an incredible job there. And then this silver this evening, I'm just very pleased for him. I have to say, really pleased for him.
9 medals in total for Team Scotland, and in Duncan Scott, a world-class star of the Games. Rhona McLeod, reporting Scotland at the Gold Coast.
No wonder they're celebrating. Well, Team Scotland's total medal haul so far is 28, and they're just one off their target for the Games. With news of where other medals were won and lost on day 6, here's James Lewis.
Racing against the clock can be gruelling. It was also painful for John Archibald.
Oh! Was a nasty crash.
Despite cuts and bruises, he was back on his bike. Although when he crossed the line in 11th place, he needed treatment for his injuries as well as heat exhaustion. Thankfully, he later recovered. At the track, Scotland's flag bearer was leading by example. Ailey Doyle through to the final of the 400 metres hurdles, inspired by Team Scotland's games so far.
I mean, we're smashing it, aren't we? Yeah, we really are. And it's been great to watch, but then you kind of feel like, I want my shot now.
Para powerlifter Mickey Yule got his shot. He showed great determination to make these games.
What do you reckon?
But just like Glasgow 2014, he finished just outside the medals. There were medals on day 6, bronze for Ian Shaw and Sandy Walker in the full-bore rifle pairs. Neil Sturton went one better, silver in the 50-metre prone.
Between Melbourne to Delhi to Scotland, didn't quite manage in a home games, so I was really determined to come here and prove that I was still competitive at the top level and do it out here.
Scotland's basketballers were also determined. A huge win over Nigeria means they're through to the semis, where hosts Australia await. No such victory for the Scotland netball team. A last gasp equaliser just didn't come, as they lost by a single point to Malawi in their pool match. So as day 6 comes to a close, Scotland have 28 medals, just one shy of their highest overseas Commonwealth Games tally. That came in Melbourne 12 years ago. They're edging closer. Jane Lewis, reporting Scotland, Gold Coast.
Sport closer to home now, and a former Celtic manager is warning against pairing the old firm in the first post-split round of Premiership fixtures. A win for Celtic would clinch the league title, but Gordon Strachan says the possibility of a trouble off the pitch risks damaging Scottish football's reputation. The Scottish Professional Football League is still in talks with police and broadcasting partners about the fixture list.
I can see where everybody's coming from, but we have to send the best if government and police think there could be problems, because you have to take advice for them. If they think it might be damaging for Scotland as a whole to show something like that. Well, hopefully we're a lot better now, but you never know.
The former Partick Thistle manager John Lambie has died at the age of 77. Described fondly as a unique character, Lambie had 3 spells in charge of the Glasgow club. He also spent time in charge at Hamilton Academical and Falkirk. David Curry looks back at his career.
Everybody's standing still. See when the ball goes into that area, go and anticipate picking up some crumbs. We're just standing. They're near life.
It wasn't just his language that was colourful. From the 1980s to the start of the 21st century, the cigar-smoking, pigeon-fancying John Lambie was one of Scottish football's most beloved characters.
The one thing that I would say with pigeons and footballers is they need motivated to win.
It was at Partick Thistle where Lambie and his players enjoyed his greatest success. In 3 spells as a manager, he led them to 2 promotions to Scotland's top division, once taking them from the 2nd division to the Premier League in consecutive seasons.
His man management skills were incredible, and his integrity was immense. You know, he worked with some very difficult players, you know, that other managers wouldn't touch, and I thought that was, you know, the mark of a man that could see that he could get the best out of people.
They'll be up for this, and it's up to you to be up for it.
Lambie's achievements and personality remembered not just by those who worked with him.
He was one of those true characters in the game that sadly are getting few and far between, but he was always quick with a story or a joke that would set the tone in the room, and no, it's sad news.
There's not a team like the Fairfield Jags. By the way, we don't fear anyone, anytime, night or day. So fly the flag, keep it flying high, and follow us everywhere. Oh, oh, oh!
John Lambie, who's died at the age of 77. Now, Barack and Michelle Obama aren't going, neither is Theresa May. But Amy Wright, who helps run a cafe in Dumfries, is going to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding. Amy's cafe provides job opportunities for young people with additional support needs. And she's among hundreds of members of the public heading to Windsor Castle next month. Willie Johnson went to meet her.
You okay there? Yes. You enjoying being back? Yeah.
Amy Wright is a director of The Usual Place, a cafe in Dumfries offering sheltered employment and training for young adults with special needs. With Harry and Meghan keen to involve in their wedding young people who have served their community and shown strong leadership, it made Amy a prime candidate for an invite. But it still took her by surprise.
Complete shock, and really couldn't believe that my name or the name of The Usual Place had even been put forward by the Lord Lieutenant to attend the wedding, so it was definitely a complete shock.
Amy herself has dyspraxia, which means she has special empathy with the trainees The Usual Place helps. David was so crippled by anxiety he could barely communicate.
I started to learn how to socialise, essentially, but more importantly, it has improved a lot of my marketable skills.
We were going to serve customers and give our young people training and qualifications, but more importantly give them these life skills that they can take with them wherever they go into, whatever they do after it.
Amy had to keep the wedding invite secret for weeks, but now it's out, she can get on with the serious business of picking her outfit.
I've got a few ideas what I might wear, but it's got to definitely be a day to sort that out at some point.
You got time?
I have got time, just.
For now, though, time for Amy to bask a while in some reflected glamour by royal invite. Willie Johnston, reporting Scotland, Dumfries.
Well, let's get the weather forecast now from Causer.
Thank you, Jackie. Good evening to you all. Well, a damp end to the day for many, a lot of cloud around and mist and murk too, especially across the east. This scene sent in from one of our weather watchers of Edinburgh Castle shrouded in that mist. And this pattern is set to continue for the next few days. Here's the earlier radar and satellite image. You can see the best of the sunshine earlier today was across the northwest, but that cloud, that rain is spreading further northwestwards. Some of it heavy at times, mist and murk lingering along the east coast as well. And this is the current pressure pattern. So we have an area of low pressure to the south of us across Europe, which is bringing some rain here, and high pressure towards Scandinavia. And in between this sandwich, for the UK, we're drawing an easterly wind, and this cold moisture from the North Sea is bringing a lot of mist and murk for eastern areas and a real contrast in our temperatures across the country. So for the rest of tonight, well, that cloud, that rain continues to spread northwards into the Northern Isles as well, but it does become drier by morning, especially for the south, but that mist and murk continuing, hill fog around as well, and a bit of a breeze too. So temperatures, well, holding up around 4 or 5 degrees, so fairly mild conditions overnight. Tomorrow then that rain clears and it will become mostly dry, but a legacy of cloud around, but that will thin and break, especially across the west. We'll see some good spells of sunshine developing. Across the east, it remains quite misty and murky. So if you're heading out around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can expect some good spells of sunshine to develop across Dumfries and Galloway, along the west coast too, up towards the Western Isles. And here, temperatures could climb up to 13 or 14 Celsius. Further towards the east, where we have that cloud, that mist, that murk, 6 to 7 degrees. And a freshening easterly breeze will make it feel cooler for North Highland, for the Northern Isles. But here we could see some sunny spells, especially by the afternoon. Into the evening then, well, we'll continue to see cloud, but it will remain largely dry and fairly breezy too. And then for Thursday, similar conditions. We're still with that setup. So cloudy conditions further towards the east, towards the west, the best chance of any brightness and a contrast again in our temperatures. That's your forecast.
Thank you, Koza. And that's Reporting Scotland. Our late bulletin is at 10:30, but from all the team, good evening.